Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning. Here today with something that's long overdue, and that is the latest in my vinyl update series. It's been a while. I believe the last one I did was early December of last year, or sometime in December. It's been a while, and you see, the thing is, when it goes like 5 or 6 months without doing one of these damn videos, some things happen. And when I mean some things happen, I mean this happens. So, without further ado, we're going to go into the latest additions to my record collection. So, I want to start off with a couple of records that I've picked up that came out this year. Some of my favorites of the year so far. Gave these albums all very positive reviews on the channel. Go check them out if you have not. First up, let's start things off with my boys, White Reaper. This album just literally got pressed on vinyl a few days ago. I had it pre-ordered forever, and it's great rock music. It is just incredibly catchy, gnarly power pop with some great riffs and some big hooks. If these are things that you want in your rock music, or just a fan of White Reaper, you got to check this thing out. I think it's one of the better rock releases of the year. Got a nice gatefold with some drawings on the inside and a nice big old lyric sheet. Always love a good lyric sheet. As far as the vinyl itself, it is pretty straightforward. We got some nice black wax, and I love the design on this. I really do love some of the packaging that we're getting here. But yeah, shout outs to White Reaper for just being just an all-around fantastic band, writing some big hooks and some great guitar-driven choruses. Up next, this just came right off the turntable because I do really love this album, and I had my reservations going into it, but Frankie Dunn did herself some good here. It's the latest Frankie Rose album, Love as Projection. I just absolutely adore Frankie's solo stuff most of the time. I think that she does a really great job, getting those big 80s synths to work so well with her music. The hooks here are infectious, the production is sharp, and she's just a monster in these genres. Has been for some time as well. Packaging's pretty straightforward. Nice some old school black wax here. It's pretty straightforward packaging, nothing too fancy, but if you like your indie pop and electro pop, heavy on the 80s synths, give this thing a listen. Frankie did us good. Up next, one of the earliest records that I gave a very positive review to this year, and that would be the second album from husband-wife duo, the CIA, Ty and Dina Segal, came out with this latest album, Surgery Channel. I think this is just really fun electro-punk. Danae has just gotten so over the top in her performances. She's become really assured of herself, and just sounds so dominant throughout this album. It is over the top, it's pretty kinky at times, it's aggressive. Love this group shot on the inside. I just love the sound that they're going for right now. It's simultaneously really old school, but it sounds super sharp and new. Straightforward black vinyl. Give this thing a listen. I'm just having a blast with it. Up next, the boys, every time they come around album cycle, I do worry a little bit just because I was such a fan of them in the early days. But they did it again with their most mature album to date, and most, introspective album, so to speak. Latest album from Shame, Food for Worms. I love what they're doing here. They continue to push themselves. They continue to really try new things. And this is far from the pressure cooker of an album that was their debut. But like I said, they're turning into thinking young men. You could definitely see that here. Love this lyric sheet. I actually love a lot of the artwork throughout this album, as a whole. And just straightforward black vinyl, nothing crazy. But if you want to hear the boys from Shame, writing some more introspective tunes, give this thing a listen. There's a lot to really love on this album. Also want to chat about probably, for me at least, one of the nicest surprises of the year. That would be the new Tennis album, Pollen. If you know about my relationship with Tennis, I have not enjoyed an album from them in years. I have not been into their music. It's kind of put me to sleep the last couple of albums, but this is like a whole nother level. This thing has some elements of psychedelia, but it's just really passionately performed. The hooks are some of the best since like their first two albums. The production's really classy, and I really do love this kind of pinkish vinyl see-through. It's really nice, actually. If you're like me and have just been like really bored with the music of Tennis for as long as I have, give this thing a listen. They knocked it out of the park, and just the old school 70s singer-songwriter feel is so good here. I love this record. We got a banger of an album here. It's the latest from Young Fathers, Heavy Heavy. I mean, I was such a fan of them in the early days, and I've just like become so lukewarm to their stuff. I just was not into what they were doing for so long. I just felt like they were kind of selling themselves short because they just feel like a band that could do so much more. Well, they done did it, and this album is easily their best thing that they've done since maybe their early EPs. But yeah, the packaging on this thing is just absolutely ridiculous. Big lyric fold out that folds out into a poster, as you can see, which is pretty damn wild. I'm having issues over here. I'm always having issues. That is a pretty wild poster that we have in here. Very vibrant, very colorful, but most of this album is just that. I think this is easily the best thing that they've done since their early EPs, and it's going to end up being one of my favorite albums of the year, and by a large margin, I think. If you haven't seen my review yet, absolutely do just that. And on top of that, pretty straightforward black vinyl, but, like I said, this is easily one of the best records of any genre I've heard all year. Shout outs to Young Fathers. This is awesome. And as far as wrapping up my, stuff of this year that I needed to get on vinyl, the big one, probably the most I've spent on a vinyl all year, it would be the new Kelela album, Raven. It's the highest grade that I've given a record a year. It is easily the best audio experience I've had all year. It is one of the most immersive alternative R&B experiences I've heard in forever. It is an awesome album. Kelela is just a goddess. She is so freaking cool, writing big hooks. There's some really, really personal stuff on here. Straightforward black vinyl, but I don't need anything else but this record, and it just sounds amazing. If you haven't listened to this yet, get on it. Now moving on to some records that have come out over the last 2 or 3 years that I've just finally gotten the chance to put in my collection. First up, it would be the latest from Miss Marissa Nadler, Path of the Clouds. I love this record so much. It's maybe lessened on me a little bit since it came out, but it is still one of the most kaleidoscopic and colorful and full of life recordings from Marissa. Love this picture of her on the back, looking gorgeous as always. It's just such a beautiful album. She's one of my favorite songwriters. I love her dark, dreary, hazy style. Straightforward black vinyl. Marissa, you are one of my favorite songwriters ever. Total sweetheart. Up next, we have a record that really caught me off guard last year, and that would be some really sick down-tempo and electronic from one of the GOATs to ever do it, Bonobo. This is easily his best stuff since the early 2000s. I expected nothing from this. I expected absolutely nothing, but what I got was some really intense beats, some really great production, and the collaborations here are really, really awesome. The packaging is sick. I mean, all of this artwork is freaking awesome, and it just sounds so good. Like I said, the collaborations, the Joji collaboration is outrageously good. Straightforward black vinyl. Bonobo really pulled one, out of thin air last year. This thing is awesome. Then we have the latest from Behemoth, Opus Contra Naturam. I gave it a very positive review last year. Still is crushing and immense, and they are just modern masters of black metal. This packaging, man. I mean, all the Behemoth packaging usually is just above and beyond everything else in metal. This is no different. I mean, yes, you are getting the straightforward classic black vinyl, nothing too fancy, but what you are getting also is, you know, the awesome artwork on the inside. And as always, or at least with the last few records they put out, you're getting the big lyric book. You're getting the big lyric book with all the wild occult imagery, all the lyrics, and yeah, it's freaking great. I mean, Behemoth, like, I know a lot of people didn't enjoy this as much as, say, the Satanists. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. But Behemoth are also, like, on this really great victory lap right now, where they're just doing whatever the hell they want and just sounding great. They are just that big of legends. This thing rules. Then we have, I've been wanting to pick this up for a while now. If Tumor Safe in the Hands of Love. Just kind of wanted to round out my collection of his stuff. Have the new album on order as well. But this comes from a simpler time. This is when I had no idea who this guy was, and he was just making really freaky electronic music with nods to Britpop, glam rock, and about 10 different other things. Love this artwork. It's one of my favorite cover arts of the last couple of years. The inside, we get even more If Tumor weirdness. This thing just rules from start to finish. Tracks like Noid and Licking the Orchid are on here. Great tracks all around. Straightforward black vinyl, you know the deal. Shout outs to If Tumor for just being on one of the biggest roles right now in modern weirdo stuff. Also, big shout out to these guys here, just because they're putting out killer records and not too many people are chatting about them. That'll be my boys Low Life. This is their latest album, Agony and the Ecstasy. Honestly, it is just, God, they're putting out such great post-punk records right now. These guys are out of Australia. They've got a very old school, streamlined sound to it, almost like, you know, reminiscent of, like, I don't know, like some Husker Du or something like that. But they also do some really great stuff as far as production goes, and write some really, like, longing tracks as well. This is just a great punk record. Love the inside artwork. I just love the griminess to this record too. Like, I've described their music as like taking a high-speed tour of the dirtiest neighborhoods in Australia, but like straightforward black vinyl. If you haven't listened to any Low Life, check out this album From Squats to Lots, and check out their previous album Downer Edition as well. Now we've got quite a few records in this next batch. These are just records that I've wanted for a long time. For one reason or another, haven't been able to pick them up, whether it be a good price, availability, or some other reason. Went a little crazy the last couple of months. Been wanting to own this on vinyl since high school. Regina Spektor, Begin to Hope. This album is one of my favorite singer-songwriter albums probably of all time. Yeah, I mean, I got into her stuff in high school, but I feel like just as I'm getting older, I enjoy her stuff more and more and more. Straightforward black vinyl, but, you know, the songs on here are just so instantaneous, so classy. I just love her vocals and her lyrics. We have a very old school lyric sheet with nothing fancy on it, but I've just been wanting this forever, and I finally found it at a really good price, so it's home now. Up next, One O Tricks Point Never, R+7. I mean, I have so much of his stuff in my collection. This is one that just kind of eluded me for a while. Not a lot of places have this, and, you know, more often than not, it's a little pricey, but I want to splurge a little, and it's like the one record of his that I have that I don't have that I just absolutely adore. I mean, it's, you know, it's probably the first record I ever even heard from him. But pretty straightforward black vinyl, but you know what you're getting here. You're getting this awesome artwork on the front, one of my favorite album covers ever. I mean, pretty awesome artwork throughout. I mean, Dan Lopatin on every front is just a genius, and probably one of my favorite producers ever. And yeah, this is just a really great album from him. Maybe not his most impactful, but this is just a really solid release from him. Up next, I was up at the record store this week and I saw a really low price on this. Not my favorite in his discography, but I just wanted to round out my collection because I literally have everything else from him. Washed Out, Purple Noon. I mean, there's some great tracks on here. Like I said, it's not my favorite of his, but it has Too Late on here, and Too Late is friggin' awesome. Price was right. Love Ernest. Love his production style. Love his songs. Just have so much lasting power to me. Pretty straightforward black vinyl, nice record sheet, a nice picture of Ernest on the inside. I mean, I've got so much respect for the guy. I needed to kind of round out my collection of his stuff, and here we are. Then we have this I've been looking for forever. Like, you'd be surprised at how hard it is to find this one. Shannon and the Clams, Dreams in the Rat House. This was my first Shannon and the Clams album, and it just holds a very special place in my heart. It's just that retro, soulful rock that they put out on this album, you know, with a little garage rock and garage punk thrown in for good measure. It has almost every one of my favorite tracks that they've ever put out on here, and I'm just such a mega fan of Shannon and the Clams. And I love the packaging on this thing. I mean, I don't know if you can tell, but it's got this nice gold embedded text down here. Looks great. I mean, so much respect for Shannon and the Clams. We have this nice little, we have this nice actual poster on the inside as well, which I'm definitely going to try and find a place for, just because that's freaking cool. And yeah, we also have straightforward black vinyl, you know the drill. But yeah, this thing is absolutely killer, and I'm just glad I've been able